Yo, take two.
We gotta move.
Oh yeah, that's not bad right there.
Yeah, there you go. Works. Right?
Let's go. JK.
Hola, hola. So we decided to record another one because I'm probably not gonna come to Miami soon. Might as well just get it over with, you know.
Little backup episode. Oh,
that's
now
right.
Yeah.
That's right. I mean, might as well do it while you're here. So, Marcos, why Miami and why not another city? I mean, I like it, but what's the main point?
It's the only city that's warm. You can get high-end amenities, like city amenities, and Eastern time zone in America with no state income tax. That's it. If you look at the East Coast, that's it. And it's on the coast too. It's on the beach. That's it. It was this or Tampa, basically. You have to be in Florida.
Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pull up one of your tweets and I'm going to ask you to explain it. That's what we're going to do in this podcast.
Tweet Explainer podcast.
Yeah. So, well, there's a few things here that is important. So you have a few tweets over here. 1.8K likes, almost 1 million views. 1.4K likes, 500,000 views. 558 likes, 359,000 views. So, Marcos, if I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, I understand likes and cash because I listen to this podcast and I know, but I want to get some engagement. What are some tips you'd give to someone who's like, I really need some engagement?
So if you need engagement, you need to do what's tried and true. That was a bar. You need to do the tried and true frameworks and you need to add your own spin. And I made this tweet maybe a year ago. And it was that the only thing holding people back from using viral frameworks is ego. And if you're listening to this, pull up another tab and look up top 10 books on YouTube. You're going to see Patrick Bet-David's top 10 books. You're going to see Alex Hormozy's top 10 books. What time is it? 2 minutes. All right. You're going to see, top 10 books for Layla, top 10 books for Cody, top 10 books for Ali Abdal, top 10 books for this person and that person and this person. Why? Because every single 10 book list there is different because they personalized, and every title is almost the same because they used a viral framework. So my advice to kind of guarantee an uptick in engagement is to find viral proven frameworks. They're almost like the low-hanging fruit of content, especially if you're new. Find the viral frameworks and use your own personal opinion and experience to spice it up and use those in your content.
Oh, there you go. Well, one of the things that have helped me, it's not so much in the engagement, but the quality of the leads that I get is mentioning the things that I disagree with. Like actually adding something that makes people go, I haven't thought about this because that is not a common take. So I'll give you an example. When I started posting about selling without sales calls, I got maybe like 3,000 views in a video, 4,000 views in a video, which to these numbers that I just, showed you from this guy right here, it's not too much, but it got me really good leads. We sold a 70-person workshop, $100 per person on something I was going to do anyway. So one of those things that really help is, what do you see in your industry that you disagree with? Like for me, I don't do sales calls. I don't believe in giving everything away for free. I think that only attracts freebie seekers. I have a few examples, and every time I pull one of those off, it usually gets the right people listening. The other day, I got on a call. This guy has 1,000 followers, only talks about poker. He's like, I like to talk. Back when I was doing Ghost, I'm like, sure, whatever. I get on a call. The guy only talks about poker. Turns out he was the owner of a 9-figure Amazon brand of shoes and like vests. Like I would have never guessed. I probably bought from the guy at some point. But it's that's what I mean about like whale bait. It's like thinking about what are the people that I want to attract, thinking about that what is in their minds, but they haven't been able to put into words. And it's like, it's hard for me to explain how to do the thing, but once it's done, it really helps because there's a lot of unsaid bullshit in every industry. And if you are the guy that says it, you automatically become kind of this pioneer, somebody that kind of goes against the grain, and everybody will cheer for that level of like kind of underdog angle.
And you know what content pillar it is? To find a trending thing in your industry and then give your hot take that you disagree with it. It's the trending pillar and it's the opinion pillar. Super Saiyan 2 right there.
Well, there you go. We talked about this as the pesto pillars. For
Yeah.
anybody who doesn't know pesto, let's see if I got it. So pesto is personal. What's E?
Expertise.
Expertise. S, you know what? You explain it. I don't really know.
Social proof, trending, and opinions. And the best level 1 of content is just familiarizing yourself with having a good amount of all 5. And then level 2 is when you know how to combine the pillars. So like a personalized thread about a trending topic with your opinion on it, right? Like you can really go really powerful if you use them. And then the last level 3, is when you're doing it, but unconsciously. It's not deliberate. It's like you just think in the pillars, you think in tweets.
And by the way, like this level of marketing is not something you evolve into. It's like something, it's like a state you tap into. It's like at some point you can do it, but it's not like you can do it on command. If you don't feel it, maybe right now we just went for a walk, we had some kava, we're like kind of chilling. If right now I'm like, Marcos, like write a million impressions post. It's not like you're gonna command it, but it's like a state you tap into, you know? So like sometimes you feel like I'm not doing that well, I must be a shit marketer. Yes and no. You are a shit marketer for those 30 minutes that you're trying to force the thing, but not forever.
It's pretty good.
Good stuff. We're gonna clip that shit. It's gonna be a clip.
Yeah.
All right. Let's keep going. Let's see what you got. So something we do might be helpful. We only take calls on Mondays. Now I'm doing Mondays and Wednesdays sometimes, but the act of batching these calls, it's a hack. Like it's kind of miserable that day because you're back to back to back and you have to be on your A game, but there's 2 benefits to only having calls on Mondays. Number 1, you don't have calls 6 days of the week. And number 2, you lose weight because you don't have time to eat. So you just do the whole thing, especially if you're in a cut, actually works because you're not thinking about food while you do that thing.
Yeah. Especially, and for me too, it's like for me, I don't know about you, but when I'm on calls, I just can't be in a state of like creativity and I can't really think innovative and creative when I have calls. So for me, it's like, I'd rather sacrifice one day for 99% of my calls. That way, the other 6 days, I can actually be creative, think of innovative ways to move the business forward, think of new ways to market, think of new caps lock frameworks, etc. Listen to the last podcast for that framework.
How many calls do you have on Mondays?
My bare minimum is 12, and that's if I don't have sales calls or impromptu calls. So my bare minimum scheduled calls is 12, and that's because I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 team calls or 6, 5. I have like 5 team calls and like 8 client calls or something like that. It's something crazy.
It's not. Well, that's how you do.
And then I have jujitsu after.
Wait, right? Do you eat?
I eat. Yeah, I eat. I have like a 1 hour gap at like noon where I'll eat, and then I eat dinner.
Oh, well, that's one way. Like you said something to me about dinner. Last night at dinner, you said, "Yeah, we're trying to look for someone who like to hire or someone to partner up with." That, by the way, Jake, is the opposite of you.
Wait, what?
you said that to me. It's like, we're looking for someone who's the opposite.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
What do you mean, bro? The opposite of me. Or like somebody who's like trying to scale, like I don't.
Yeah.
I got down the scale route. The way I tried to do it was kind of flawed. It was trying to get closers, setters. Now I don't do sales calls. I don't have setters. It's all with a Google Doc. I just sell with text.
Yeah.
And I just love it that way. But I was not a fan of that. Like back then, it did make a lot of revenue, but we incurred like 40,000 plus in costs, and it was some heavy shit. And it took like, honestly, I was really afraid of switching because I thought that was the only way you could do it. And often that's where a lot of my anxiety comes from. It's I know, well, I've only done it this way. Like, bro, like when I cut the first time, I was terrified to bulk. I'm like, I'm gonna be fat. And I hate being fat, and I lost all this fat, and I hate it, and I want to change it. Same thing with this business model. I don't want to change it. But when it's like sometimes a coach had to give me permission to JK, it's okay to change it. You can change your business model and you'll be okay. And I switched to the whole less scale. And now I just want to hit 100K profit per month for myself. And, I'll take step 2 from there. But for now, I'm really not interested in scale. But Marco said, I am. He wants to get team members. So we actually run kind of very different businesses.
Yeah. And JK, one day when he comes to his senses and wants to go and scale to 2 million a month, he's going to be one of my clients. But
if I just post, yeah, actually, guys, I've had a ghostwriter all this time. It's Marcos.
Yeah. It would go so viral. Like the number one psyop on money Twitter.
I change my mind all the time. Somebody was like, but JK, you used to think giving value for free was the way. Now you don't. And you used to be a ghostwriter. Now you're not. I'm like, yeah, I changed my mind every 30 minutes.
This is the Change My Mind podcast.
Yeah, I don't know the podcast.
Yeah, but I don't know the podcast. Like,
yes.
If anything, it's a sign of I think it's a sign of an intelligent man when you can. I sound like Andrew Tate. It's a sign of an intelligent person when you can change your mind on topics and just admit, like, I was wrong. I can do it a different way.
What was something you were wrong about?
Ooh, that's a good one. Something I was wrong about is that I can work with anybody. I thought when I started that I could work with anybody. And I slowly found out in the most painful way possible. Can't work with this person. Oh, can't work with that kind of person. Oh, can't work with that kind of person. Oh, and then I found out another thing I was wrong about was that, every niche can be scaled. There's something called TAM, total addressable market. It's real.
You got to tell me a story about this, bro. Like either one of the little TAM or tell me something.
So I had a client, yeah. I'm not going to give away the niche, but I had a client who was in a niche where it was just like the total addressable market on Twitter, just not that big. And I swear we did everything. We bought ads, we bought retweets, like all sorts of stuff. There's just like not enough of this market on Twitter specifically, just not growing, just not getting engagement. Nobody gave a fuck about that niche. And this is one. I've had another one that was a completely different niche where this was a completely different problem. The first problem was that guy was under 1,000 followers and we just could not grow him. I'm just like, we cannot get traction no matter what we do. We would go viral, boom. If we went viral, if we went like super mainstream tweets or threads, people would click his profile and not follow him because he was just in such a niche. And then if we went super niche, we just wouldn't find enough people to follow him. I swear, like all 800 people in his niche followed him. And I had another client who had like tens of thousands of followers where in my opinion, I just think he hit the ceiling. I think the entire market that was interested followed him already. We sent out 1,000 DMs in terms of like a DM campaign. Bad. Like there's just no interest.
How do you deal with that? Like you're doing a done for you service, doesn't work out. And you're like, shit.
I mean, I set expectations. I set really good expectations, especially for clients in niches like that. Like those niches they obviously weren't like bread and butter, like education, info products, like where I'm like, oh, I've done that like 20 times. So I know I'll scale you. It wasn't like that. You know what I mean? So my expectations from the beginning are set much differently. It's like, we're going to try it. Like, I think we can get these results for you. This is what we're getting for other clients in different niches. But admittedly, I've never worked with your niche. And I set that expectation up very early and they know that they're investing and it's a risk just like any business. I don't set guarantees in the same way that I don't set commitments. So that person who came and worked with us for a month was not locked into, for example, $15,000, $20,000 for multiple months. They were only locked in up front for 1 month. And at the same time, I didn't guarantee them the results. So I think it's setting up those expectations. And then at the same time, at the end of the engagement, it's a little awkward. But when you're a CEO, you got to have these difficult conversations like, hey, man, we didn't get the results that we wanted. Admittedly, like I could keep trying. And like I've given a few free weeks to try and like turn it around. Like instead of 30 days, I'll go 37 days or 40 days. I've done that a couple times. I'm like, hey man, admittedly, like the results are just not what we'd like. I personally am not even sure that it's going to be possible to scale with our method with your niche, I'm open to trying another month if you'd like. But again, I'm just not 100% confident with your niche, and they've fully respected it. And they're like, wow, that's like really cool of you to be honest and transparent, et cetera. Because, in this industry, most people are pretty slimy.
Did you refund?
No refund.
Because you didn't propose it in the beginning.
I didn't propose it. And I've offered a refund. I've offered refunds in the past and they just said no. So this time I didn't even.
Good stuff. I have a thought on this. Like, if I'm listening to this and I'm unsure about my niche, I may be like, well, do I change it? Do I not change it? What do I do? And I have kind of a maxim for this. You don't choose the niche. You let the niche choose you. So let's say you run a pizza shop. I'll run an email on this. Let's say you run a pizza shop and sales are not as good as they could be. So you take common niche advice that you hear on YouTube and you think, who is the target market for this? Maybe somebody who has money, who needs to eat pizza fast, and they have the requirement for that. Doctors, they have money. So now you rebrand for pizza for doctors and you put it on your slogan. But then the wealthy lawyer, the wealthy banker, the wealthy marketer are going to look at that and think, that's for doctors though. It's not for me. And then because you niche down, you lost on all of that potential. Whereas maybe you will encounter the same problem Marcos's client had, that the TAM is just too small. So I'm a bigger fan of thinking, okay, I'm making these pizzas. What is the most popular pizza? And then you make more of that. And then you let the niche come to you. You start with the offer first. You don't choose a niche. I'm going to go for wealthy veterinarians in Idaho, right? You let a niche choose you. You put the offer out there and you analyze, well, who is responding? I don't know if you started off like this, but you did, you did the ghostwriting and the monetization. Did you start with like experts, coaches, and consultants in mind? Or was it something more like you put the offer out and it turned out that experts and coaches and consultants were the ones that needed it the most?
Yeah. So when I started, I was just doing founders and CEOs and just like saying that. And I put it out cold DMs to just all founders and CEOs. I think actually the practical thing I was doing, I think you taught me this, was Phantom Buster. I scraped Alex Hormozy's followers and then I keyword reverse search for CEO and founder. And then I cold DM'd every CEO and founder and that I would grow their following. What had happened was I had a couple of failures I failed for a SaaS founder. It wasn't very good. Like, we got him some SaaS subscriber trials, but it was like what I quickly found out about SaaS. And I quickly I started knowing that I needed monetization after this, is when I worked for a SaaS founder and he got like a bunch of trials and stuff. But then I did the math because I asked him, I was like, well, how many subscribers do you need to even make your money back with us? Right. It's like he needed like 10 to 15 paying $97 a month SaaS subscribers to even make money with us, because we were only charging like $1,000.
And coming from SaaS, that shit's tough.
Yeah, for those who know, it's like, especially with not a lot of followers.
Organic?
Yeah, organic. And it was a niche. It was a niche SaaS. It was actually like data as a service. And I quickly realized that, we got 7 trials from this couple thread, like this few weeks. I was like, those trials, we'd be lucky if one converts to a paying subscriber. So I quickly realized, if I want to charge, and 1,000 was the bottom, if I want to go charge 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 a month, how am I going to get that much results for a SaaS founder? So I scrapped SaaS founders after that. And then eventually I worked for free. I did 3 free trials. I think I've told this story. One was like one was a Web3 agency. One was another like a e-com guy, and then someone else. And all of those were like, meh, like not that great, whatever. And I quickly realized, one was a design agency, and I quickly realized all of those niches were out the window. So then I had like another client, and then I got another client referred who was a coach, and I crushed it for him. Fucking knocked it out of the park. Insane results. Like, I have you can go back in 2022 and see the screenshots. Like, these people were like all caps in the Slack. Like, oh my God, like we did, 50K, 100K, 25x return on ad spend, 50x return on ad spend, insane numbers. And I was like, okay, so now all I thought to myself, verbatim, I thought to myself, how do I get more of these? how do I get more of these? And there's only two ways. One is I basically just search for people who have this exact business model, or two, referrals. And that's what I did. So I just started reaching out to coaches, and yeah, we slowly acquired the coaches and getting referrals at the same time. And then from there, we crushed like 4 or 5 people. I actually signed someone on a rev share deal because they couldn't afford our service at the time. Was $3,000 a month. He was like, I'm not doing $3,000 a month. I don't even have a sale yet. Let's do $1,000 a month and 15% rev share. I was like, fuck, it feels like a big step back. And I knew, I forget who told me, but I knew rev shares are only good if they're on top of your retainer and not in place of your retainer. So this is a piece of practical advice for early people: is you don't do rev shares in place of your retainer. You do a retainer plus a rev share, because all you're doing is taking on risk. So that was a risk, but I knew I was still pretty early in my business, like maybe like 6-7 months in. I was like, you know what? I'll take a shot. It's my niche. Let's do it. You know, call it 4 months later, we were doing like $60K in sales for that client with, 15% rev shared. We ended up doing a negotiation where we now negotiated down to, it was like down to 5%, and my retainer went way up. And yeah, to this day, we have a rev share and a high retainer for that client. And he referred me another client who I got a rev share with that person. I did the same deal. I was like, he referred you, I'll give you the same deal as him. Let's put a contingency. So this is another practical tip you can do, is you can put a contingency in your contract. So I did a handshake contingency because I did not fucking write a contract with a contingency. So I did a handshake contingency. Basically, it was $1,000 a month plus 15% contingent on when we start making you a certain amount of money. I forget what the number was, maybe like 10,000. Whenever you make this certain amount of money, that contingency activates, and we will go up to like $3,000 or $4,000 or $3,000 a month, and then the percentage will go down to 10%. And I hit it, crushed it again, because again, this is the same niche. To this day, I've had this client for about a year.
Do I know him?
Yeah, you know him. We've talked about him earlier. Oh. All these clients, and this person referred me. This person has referred me another client, and again and again. And all I did is basically, it's called I don't know what to call it, like case study stacking. All you do is you get a case study, use it in your marketing to get another case study, use it in your marketing to get another case study, and over and over and over, and then it avalanches, and now you have a nailed down niche, because everyone in that niche knows that you've done it 4 or 5 times in a row, and it gets easier and easier and easier to close sales in that niche.
Case studies is a good point. I think you made a good point. I think case studies are useless if it doesn't have one thing, which is context. If you provide context to the case study, it hits. If it doesn't have context, doesn't it? Example: if I post somebody making $10,000 a month, okay, like you just swipe it, it's like it doesn't matter to you. But if I say this person has 500 followers and he is making $10,000 a month, because you have context, you put yourself in that position and you understand how that works. This is why case studying is another example of storytelling, because you give people context in what that situation was, and then people put themselves in that situation. So to me, it's like I could put 2 of the exact same case studies, but in one of them, oh, there you go, it's moving now. Well, Marcus, we're gonna need to get closer now.
We only got like 10 minutes left anyway.
We're fucking kids. Okay, so I'll say this was the niche and this was the how much money they made. Then it hits. But if I don't put it in the other one, people don't care. Like, giving context to stuff is good. That's one thing you mentioned. Second thing you mentioned about that I want to point out is you don't choose the niche chooses you. Because I started with agency owners and consultants, mostly helping people out like that. But I don't want to say that 100% of the people I help like crushed it, right? Doesn't happen like that. But I noticed that some people had a cap. Some people were doing well, but they wouldn't keep doing well. And I'm like, why are you not getting any more clients? They're like, because we're capped. I'm like, what do you mean you're capped? I can't take any more clients, because they were in an agency and they didn't have the systems to support it. They were a done for you kind of deal. Whereas consultants could take way more people. The upside that I could provide to them was way higher. Therefore, it's not that I only take consultants, but it makes sense that when I write and when I market, I think about them, because The niche chose me. I didn't choose consultants. The niche chose me. And that's why I think when people ask me, what niche should I choose? To me, it's like kind of an irrelevant question because it's not the one that's, you're asking the question backwards.
Yeah.
It's you sending out the offer and then you let the niche choose you.
Yeah. Consultants have the highest lifetime value for you. Whereas an agency, once they get capped, they're they're good. They've kind of completed their life cycle with you. Whereas the life cycle with a consultant for you could be 3, 4, 5, 10 times longer.
Yeah, well, there's that. And the
Yeah.
third thing I want to point out is this insights wouldn't have happened if we didn't move before trying to get clarity. Imagine we ask a coach or a consultant, man, like I have agency owners and consultants, what do I choose? Or Marcos is like, do I do rev share? Do I do not? It's like we couldn't have arrived to the answer if we first didn't act. So when 95% of the people that like come out to work with me, I asked them on their forum, what would you like? Like, what is something we can help you with? 95% is, I just need clarity. Like, that's the main thing. I just want clarity. But clarity is always step 2. It's like riding a bike. If you want to stand on the bike, the first thing you have to do is you got to move it. Like, you got to be able to move the bike because in motion, it's harder to stabilize than if you're standing still. So one of the main cures for anxiety, because you don't have any clarity, is just get going and eventually you start figuring it out. And it sucks. That advice sucks, but if it were easy, everybody would do it. You know what I mean?
Banger.
There you go. Easy. So that's one of the things that when I'm feeling anxious, it's because I'm not moving. It's either because I'm doing things that I know I shouldn't, or I'm not doing things I know I should. And as soon as I align my actions with what I know I should be doing at that moment, clarity just appears. But if you try to get clarity on its own, it doesn't work because clarity is always step 2. It's like trying to stabilize a bike before you move it. You can't.
Yeah. There's a quote. I forget. I don't know if it was Jeff Bezos or it might have been Jeff Bezos, but he's like, anxiety just comes because you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing or something like that. That's how I've always cured my anxiety now. Like if I'm ever anxious, I'm just like, what am I not doing? Okay, I'm gonna go do it. No more anxiety. It's like pretty good.
Yeah, just like I'll give you an example. The other day I ate too much. I'm like, fuck, I'm above my calorie limit. And I was getting so anxious because I was thinking about, okay, am I going to skip dinner tomorrow? What am I going to do? So I knew that the cure to anxiety is movement. So I got on the stationary bike. I'm like, oh, well, I ate this many calories. Let me just burn the calories and I'll be okay. And then I finished and I felt way better. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
anxiety.
Honestly, if I ever eat like shit or I know I'm going to eat like shit, I have to either work out right before so that I don't get anxiety or I work out after to cure anxiety. I can't eat like shit and then just not work out. I'll feel like I will have anxiety.
It's horrible. I'm
going to be a fat fuck.
Do you move every day? Do you do something every day?
Yeah, I walk every day. I walk every single day, and I also run now. I'm training for a marathon this year. So it's either every day I'm either doing a long run or jujitsu, or I'm resting from that. So
no weightlifting.
Well, I started doing Murphs. Well, not complete training for Murphs. I bought a weight vest, 20-pound weight vest. So I need to be able to do it body weight, which I can't yet. And then I'm going to start doing Murphs with the weight vest. Because I prefer like pull-ups and push-ups and like body weight squats and stuff like that. So I got the weight vest to like get actual resistance training, because for me, push-ups are very easy. Pull-ups are not that easy, but push-ups are really easy. So I needed the weight vest.
Tell the people how much you bench.
I bench 225.
There you go.
Yeah, you know me. If you don't bench 2 plates, you're whack.
You're poor.
You're poor. Poor. Drink water.
You actually said it exactly.
Yeah. You gotta go soon, huh? We got time for like one more.
We'll do one more. We'll do one more for the culture. So, okay, we started on. I like this podcast to be themed as like kind of failures. So, what is one? I'll share one failure that I think it's like when sometimes we switch to actually just you can join the thing. You don't have to do any contracts, and the first step is getting on a one-on-one call with me. But if you don't want to stay, you don't have to stay. So I got more yeses, but something that pissed me off. Like, and at the time I was like really childish about it. like fortunately it didn't like move, like it didn't proliferate. But I was like, some people would just get in a call and leave. Like I charge 5K for a call. Some people would just pay 250, get in a call, and then goodbye, never see him again. And I used to be like so salty, so petty about it, and sometimes I still am. But it's one of those it's just a huge L, and I hated it, and it just made me like real emotional this week, and it just happens at every level. And sometimes I'll message my friends that are like, they're making more money than me, they're making like fucking $500,000 a month. I'm like, do you have this too? Like, do you get annoyed at this shit too? He's like, bro, all the time. So it was one of those like L's that kind of like brought me back to perspective. I'm like, yes, it's going to happen, and so what? Do you have an L like that?
It's not an L. It's more just like an annoyance from the same kind of thing. It's like, as an agency, one thing you learn as an agency owner, especially as an agency with a bit of notoriety, is you get on sales calls with people who are supposed to be successful all the time, and you quickly find out who's faking it and who's not. Because if someone's interested in your service, you can quickly tell when you go and price drop if they're serious or if they're not, and if they make as much money as they kind of show on the internet. And that's one thing I've learned as an agency owner, and nothing annoys me more is when like you get on a call with someone who's supposed to be this successful CEO, whatever, or is this successful business owner, they've had an exit or something like that. Like you know how people display themselves on money Twitter, and then you drop the price and they go cold. You're like, oh, I don't think this, like, you know how you drop price and you can tell if someone has it or doesn't.
Yeah.
That's because I work with so many people that do have it. I quickly find out who's faking it and who's not on money Twitter, just from having people interested, and like you give them the price and you see how they react. So that's one thing I've learned.
How do they react? I'm curious. So I'm like, it is
I'll say
$6,000.
Yeah, like I'll be like, oh, it's call it fucking. I'll say $8,000. Like I say, it's like, oh, it's $8,000. And they're like, oh, okay. Well, so yeah, like, yeah, if you can just like send me the proposal and like, and then the person that have is like, the person who doesn't, or sorry, the person who has it most of the time will be like, oh, that's not bad, or like, or they'll say, let's do it, of course, or they'll just be thinking. I had someone that sat on the call like this after I price dropped and just sat there like this in silence, uninterrupted silence for 3 minutes long. And then he goes, let's do it. Let's go. What's the worst that can happen? I'm like, okay. That was a really long silence. He's like, yeah, I wanted to see how you'd react to the silence. And because all I did was stare at him.
Really?
Yep.
You just T-posed on his ass?
I didn't squirm. I didn't.
You didn't feel the same?
I
You
didn't
just
look,
like,
I
okay,
didn't,
do it to the camera. I want to see what you did. Nice. I respect that.
That's it. And then I didn't squirm. I didn't laugh. I didn't say, hello, sir. Don't be a bitch. You got to man the fuck up. This is a real business. One thing I fucking hate. Let's leave it at this. I tweeted this maybe 2 weeks ago.
Going. I'm enjoying this.
You can pull it up on my. All right, it's. What I hate is when dudes will like. They'll have like a B2B business. It's like an agency, and then their profile picture is like a mirror selfie. I'm like, bro, you're trying to sell like a 4-figure, 5-figure throughout the year service to other CEOs, like grown ass business owners. Like you're cold DMing them. You're like, hey man, like I can help you do this, that, and the other. I can help you make like an extra this much a month. And then you click on their profile and it says it's a mirror selfie like this, bro. Like, bro, are you trying to like, who are you selling to? A girl? Like, are you selling to like your crush? You're selling to a literal CEO. How can you not have a professional profile picture when you're selling to business owners? Oh man, it's my biggest pet peeve.
I have another one. It's like when, and I've done this too. Like I've done this too. It's like when you talk to your peers instead of your prospects on social media. I just closed a $5,000 a month client, and you're like, bro, like,
yeah,
you realize you just price dropped
Yeah.
to everyone, and you look like really needy.
Bro, just got a piff. Bro, you got a paid in full first agency sale. Let's go.
Oh, dude. Imagine you close someone, they're like, first client ever.
Yeah.
Let's go. Like,
And I never did that. Like, I knew that, like, I feel like if you have a little common sense, like, if you see that tweet from someone, you just know they're not going to make it 95% of the time.
or they're just young in the game, like, to be fair.
Or that's exactly what I was going to say. 95% of the time. The other 5% is they're just young and they're new and they just didn't get it. But yeah, that's tough. Don't do that because, like, if I see that shit, I want a refund, big bro.
It's like the same. It's like posting, like, building in public, sharing what I learned. Just like, not a professional. I'm not an expert in things. I told this story. It's like you have a restaurant and you have a big sign that says, I'm learning how to cook.
Yeah. I didn't tweet. I tweeted revenue at these milestones. I tweeted at 10K a month. I tweeted just that I got my agency to 10K a month in a certain amount of time. And the reason I did that is because I was trying to attract agency owners on purpose. And then it was 30K a month. I did the same thing, but it was the leverage that I used was I hit 30K a month using my Twitter. See how I'm selling to other people using their Twitter. And then I didn't tweet again until like 60. But like I used those milestones for either virality or to attract the person that I was addressing with the tweet. Those are the only times it makes sense.
I did something similar.
Now I'll never do it again, by the way.
I did something similar. I put out a folder of folders. So it's the Google Drive folder, and the folders were called, I don't know, call it health, gut health, dating, business, writing. And I said, took me an hour, but I finally organized all the testimonials into folders. And that revealed that, I'm not a bum. And the second one is that, these are all the niches JK works with. Let's see if I'm in there.
That's good.
Yeah, so I tried that one back in the day.
I tried one. Cool. I'll give you, and because you're going to be late. So I do want to try. I want to finish off with a failure that I did in this exact moment. I posted a screenshot maybe a year ago. I wrote in my notebook all the niches that I could see us working with one day. And I wrote them all down. It was like 50 on a piece of paper. And I wrote them. I'm like, I forget what the tweet was, but I basically tweeted a picture of the notebook pages with the writing of all the niches that we were looking for, almost as like an impromptu hand raiser. And I was like, this is going to bang. I'm going to get at least a few people from these niches. Never worked. Didn't work. Didn't get a single person from any of those niches. I was like, damn. And one thing I did learn in that moment and throughout last year is that it is so hard to sign as an agency for me to find a good fitness coach education business that has like scale potential. Man, fitness coaches are either broke or they're lifestyle businesses. There's very few good big education fitness businesses like Dan Go or like knees over toes guys, like the guys who are already so big they have internal teams that they don't need me. There's very few guys that are in the middle where they're like trying to get to that level. It's very hard to find, but if you're there, this is my hand raiser. Come sign up, thebirdhouse.com.
I'll tell you, I'll end with this one. So we had one time there was a girl client. Oh, this is kind of wrong, but I want to. Okay. We had kind of a girl client, right?
Kind of a girl?
Like, we had a girl client.
Okay.
Sorry. I'm being imprecise with my language. Thank you, Marcos.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And but like she was really hot, and when she did hand raisers, and it just outperformed everything. It was an excuse for dudes to get into DMs. So we rebranded it. We stopped calling it hand raisers. We were like, you should just do a dick raiser, and it worked. It was awesome. Welcome to the Alexia Cash podcast.
See you in the next one. Good. That's good marketing. That's good marketing. That's genius. You got to use what God gave you. So,
cheers, guys.
Cheers.